it means the types of jobs we have related to import-export are increasing. Now they're going to be more contract or contractual oriented, more project oriented. Instead of develop the product here, they may be bringing it in and then putting it into our supply chain. So it means job skills are changing. And this is not a surprise, but we're going from where we're making the product to where we're bringing it in and incorporating it into our supply chain. So it means a huge difference in the types of jobs we have at corporations. They're going to be more project management type positions versus a project development, which is not necessarily bad. It just means that everyone's got to keep an eye on the ball. In terms of exports and imports, you can see, if I can see it now, things have dramatically changed in the United States, bringing in a lot more. And our exports are increasing, but we're importing a lot more than we're exporting, which means a big difference in terms of automobiles. We actually have a lot of foreign automobiles manufactured in this country. They use a lot of our inputs. But having said that, we still bring in a lot of cars. We bring in a lot of apparel. And you look at it in terms of apparel and retailing, and it affects that industry so much. In terms of vehicle production, this is not going to be a surprise. We saw in the 1960s where the foreign production really took off. First it was the Europeans, now it's the Japan and others. It could be Korean, it could be, someday it could be a Chinese car. So it's really, the dynamics are really changing. It's interesting where here the U.S. had the dominant share 1950, 1960, and they let that opportunity get away from them by becoming complacent. And that's the other thing that I want to emphasize is don't become complacent. If you think you're going to do the same old, you're going to be out of business. I know in my line of work, every time I work with a client, I take a previous presentation or I take information and I constantly improve it. I scrub it, vet it to make sure that it's more attractive, it's more accurate, it's more succinct. I want to make sure that my information keeps me in the hunt versus allows someone to filter me out. So I'm constantly looking at our community, and I'm constantly looking at myself to make sure that we're providing the best information that we can in terms of our economic development clients. Unemployment rate by education. A lot of people thought that our college grads, we have a high unemployment with college grads at 5%. Typically it's much closer to 1 to 2%. But boy, if you don't have a good education, those are the folks truly being impacted in our economy, at least nationally, and clearly, probably locally, this is a little bit different. We're probably a little higher locally, but it's a tough economy up there. Global population living cities. We're becoming much more of an urban world, much more of a global world, which impacts us. Even in Durham, we're not going to continue growing in our suburban growth too much. If you really think about Durham, we can't grow too much to the south because we run into Wake County and the airport. And can't grow to the west because we run into the Jordan Reservoir, run into Orange County and Chapel Hill. Can't grow too much to the north because we run into a series of reservoirs that are protected watershed. Really can't grow too much to the east because we run into the Neuse. So we've got a limited amount of land. And what this means for a business person is you got to choose a good location. We're not going to be a sprawling community, so you find the right location, and we also need to learn how to operate our business in a much denser urban environment. What we're seeing downtown with our $1.2 billion of new investment over the last decade is really indicative of where Durham is going to be going. It's going to be up and dense, which makes providing services, providing goods, it's a different situation. U.S. non-metro, we're following the globe, probably not urbanizing as fast, but obviously the rate of change is slacked off, but we still have the bulk of our citizens are living in urban cities or in metro areas. Yep, that's interesting. We're not only going to urban areas, but going to the larger urban areas. It's kind of like coming off the farm and going to the city to get the job. Now we're going to the larger cities. One thing we're seeing in a talent-dependent economy is there's a rising global competition for innovation and talent. There's got to be a dedication to lifelong education and re-education, and our delivery of education has to be driven by consumer demand. It's no one can sit back and be complacent with who they are now. constantly changing. I guess as you're fixing transmissions, they keep making them more complicated. You got to go back and learn what's going on. It's a crazy world, but recognizing that and understand that we all must go back and constantly get retrained for what we're doing. And it doesn't necessarily have to be in a formal environment. You could be just going during the course of the day, reading, or even take an opportunity when you're on vacation to think about where you're going and learning additional skills. A lot of it's going to be communication skills, as we're going to see shortly. One thing about the Triangle is we have a very well-educated population. Talent is our main draw. You can see nearly 44% of our Durham population has a bachelor's degree, 19.3% has a graduate degree or higher. We have a lot of lawyers, a huge percentage of our population per capita are doctors, and even Raleigh is higher, and Chapel Hill is very high, which isn't surprising. It's a little world unto itself. But when we market Durham to our clients, the first thing we talk about is our regional talent. Then we talk about our local assets and how we can support a company. Basic academic skills. This is what the employers, looking at the conference board back in 2006, thought. Reading comprehension. Basically, it's a little bit of math, but most of it's communication. Let's see how it changes in 2000. Whoops. We got a little video here.
This year we're signing our Ricky up for a college savings plan instead.
The College Counts 529 Fund. Get smart. Go to collegecounts529.com or estimate risks and costs.
See, I had to throw in something humorous because I knew my speaking wouldn't carry the day or the morning. You know, I love technology. We're just gonna make this work. Whoa, that's good. Running auto setup. I like that. Yeah. This is interesting. With computers, they can send out problems with flaws, but I tell you, if you sent that car out and the transmission didn't work, they'd be back pretty quick. But we continue buying this stuff. But computers and software, probably with one exception, to where you can send something out and say, I'll fix it later. Everything we do now has got to be done perfect the first time, not only for customer service, but for customer expectations and for cost control, operational efficiencies. Our strength, once again, is our talent.
He was no ordinary man. He devoured life, swallowing large chunks that home. No ordinary man. He lived enough life for 10 people. Dane's doctoral glue. Part myth, part legend. Part is all. In the year 1955, he was 24 years old.
That's the great thing about an education or having skills. Once again, an education is not necessarily that everybody has to have a college degree, but they have to have a certification. They have to have a skill that's translatable to earning a living. This gives you an idea about brain drain and gain in our country. The last part about the college thing, once again, it doesn't have to be college. It can be certification, it can be a license, it could be a lot of different things, but the key is to continue moving and progressing your knowledge base. But if you look at areas that are losing brains and thought, boy, you know, it's tough. But then you look right here in North Carolina and the Piedmont along I-85, it's one of the brain gain areas of our country. And what happens in our areas, we're continuing to innovate new products, which means we're competitive in the global economy. And we still continue to need to be that. So I want you to think about it. It's not like only a small percentage of our folks are actually going to be doing the innovation, but many of y'all here in this office, many of our chamber members support that innovation. So you have to understand how that process